very delighted to have Ben Batalla with us in the studio. Ben, tell us what piece you'll be performing on Tuesday.
Hi, I'll be performing the second movement of Chopin's first piano concerto.
I see. And why did you happen to pick that particular piece? I'm going to ask you that because your background is extraordinarily versatile. You could have picked many pieces. Why that one?
Yes, it was kind of a special moment in my family's life. So I came across the piece right when my son was born, and I had just been listening to it so much. And it's a slower movement, so normally for competitions and things like that, I would try to audition with something that featured my virtuosity and things like that. But I really wanted to focus on the lyricism and the heart, and I think the piece captured just where I was at that time a year ago. So yeah, it's a very special piece to me.
I see. And where are you from, Ben?
I'm originally from Florida, but I currently live in Austin, Texas right now with my family.
You live in Austin, Texas. Now, as I read your bio, you have an extraordinarily varied background. You're very versatile in jazz. You love to improvise. You, of course, love classical music, but you're also steeped in sacred music traditions. Could you tell us a bit about the sacred part of your interests?
Yeah. So as I was growing in my education with classical music and jazz, I had a very fortunate teacher who emphasized needing to have a holistic outlook at music. So right around that time, I was also just going to mass on Sundays, and a big part of my participation in that was the music. It was always this really transcendent experience, and I saw it just as a natural progression of all the beautiful music that I've been learning and studying in my career. It was just a very personal type of music, and it also felt larger than myself, much like the classical music that we listen to. But the religious component was also just very personal and very touching for me. So I decided to use my musical gifts in that context as well.
And then, quite different than that type of music is jazz. You're also a jazz performer and an improviser. I understand you believe in the art of improvisation. Tell us a little bit about your approach to jazz.
Yes, it's actually not quite as far off from the composers like Bach and Chopin and Mozart. I found myself, they've very much followed that tradition and embraced it. Much of the runs and passages from the concerto that I'll be playing are very improvisatory as well. So I see it just as maybe using a little bit different vocabulary, but a lot of the same approach. So it's very natural for me to jump between both, although I need to be in the right headspace for each side. Yeah.
Well, as everyone knows, Bach and Mozart and Beethoven were great improvisers on their own. Bach would like nothing more than to sit alone in the church at the organ and just play. You get the feeling that some of his organ pieces, and by the way, I once put together a festival of the Bach organ in Chicago, and we played, believe it or not, all 300 pieces over 4 weekends with 40 organists in 10 venues. But you get the feeling that he would improvise and then just write it down.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
And we also know that Mozart and particularly Beethoven, they would just sit and play without any notes. And so you sometimes get the feeling that the music itself is improvisatory. They just wrote it down.
Hmm. After the fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of their
And
cadenzas, improvise as well, things like that. Yeah.
and who are some of your favorite jazz performers?
I'm really, really into the late and Keith Jarrett. Those two are probably my main guys. Both who were excellent classical musicians as well. So I think that's why I really gravitate towards them, because they could easily play a Mozart concerto and then they could improvise an entire piece freestyle, and I wanted to emulate them in that journey as well.
And are you a fan of Art Tatum?
Oh yes. He's amazing. I think Rachmaninoff said that Art Tatum would be dangerous if he started learning a lot of the classical stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rachmaninoff and Gershwin they heard Art Tatum live at the clubs, and you have to just imagine Sergei Rachmaninoff sitting in a little jazz club listening to Art Tatum.
Yeah, what a sight.
And as you may know, Oscar Peterson was very devoted to Art Tatum.
Yes, he was my first introduction to jazz piano, Oscar. So, yeah,
Oscar
really
Peterson.
love him.
Yeah. And just to conclude, you're also someone who enjoys playing contemporary classical music as well. Who are some of the composers you've worked with?
Contemporary classical. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, of course, I'm very open to learning my colleagues' works in the university and things like that, even though they're not
Hmm.
well known right now.
Right.
A recent famous classical pianist, Stephen Huff, just composed for the famous Clyburn competition, and I went and bought the score right away because it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. Mark Andre Hamlin, another famous pianist, composes as
Yeah.
well. So I love all their music. It's really wonderful new stuff. Mhm.
Yeah. Marc Andre lives here in Boston, where I live.
Oh, I didn't know that. Great.
Yes.
Yep.
Um, he actually married a classical music announcer, radio
Oh,
announcer.
really? Wonderful.
Well, Ben, thank you very much for taking the time. You are a remarkably varied musician. I look forward to hearing your performance and following your career.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.